Hey guys, how are you? Hope everybody's doing great today. Back with another Amius video. As always, I try to look at the rotation and the champs that are available and try to get you guys the most free to play and accessible lineup that I possibly can. So, there are a couple things to note about the team this time around. The first thing is that this is kind of just an idea that I had because, like I said, I'm always looking at like the epics, the free Legos, and just seeing like, what can I do with these people? Can these champions beat Amius? So I don't know if I could really vouch for the team and say like, hey, this is an amazing team. You should definitely go build out all of these champions if you haven't. I'm not giving it like an amazing team stamp of approval. It's just a team that happens to have worked. And then, a couple of other things that I always like to say at the beginning. The first thing is, if you have better champions, like, please, by all means, use them. Like, you don't have to use the champions that I picked. You should play to your roster's strength, use people you have that are strong, and work here and perhaps fulfill similar functions. Like I was saying, I don't think the team is like the greatest team ever, but I do think there are things that we can all learn from the team and the run and implement going forward if you're not super familiar with this fight. For example, like I have Rakkaviltide, I have Taurus, like geez, wouldn't that have, I have Duchess, wouldn't that have been an easy run? I'm a content creator. I try to make videos that are accessible to the vast majority of people. If I make a video with Duchess and Taurus and Rakkaviltide and Stalls' Dragonbane, that's not really helping anybody. Those are not accessible champions. So yeah, this is why I, came up with this team. So a couple other things about Amius fight in general, if you're new to doing this. I will show you a walkthrough of the entire fight. I will explain every little thing I did, why I did it, try to help you out with the abilities and stuff. But I highly recommend, if you're going to tackle this, you should go through, you should read all the abilities. Look at how this keeps scrolling. So I would definitely recommend reading through that and just understanding on your own terms how everything works, because I probably can't tell you everything in this video. There are things that might be relevant to your team that just didn't even come up during my fight whatsoever. I've been doing these videos for maybe like a year now, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. Time is difficult. But I regularly get comments about like just, obvious information that was available like right here, his passives and stuff like that. So definitely read through all that. Like, for example, people are regularly confused about like their mythical champions forms being changed. That's just part of his passive. He changes your mythical's forms. That's in there somewhere. So like I said, it's very helpful. I know it's like a lot of text, but yeah, super helpful to just kind of understand what you're doing, learn for yourself going forward. Always recommend that. All right, so enough of that rambling. Let's talk about the actual team itself. So, essentially my team, the idea that I had, which is maybe stupid, I don't know. My idea was basically to sort of consolidate all of the damage being taken in this fight into a couple of tanky champions with inherent self-healing. So that was basically my thought process. So essentially what I'm doing throughout the fight is I'm making it so that essentially Nia and Vergis take the vast majority of the damage being taken in this fight. They both have ally protect. They can ally protect each other. Vergis is passive. He has inherent healing. He can also place continuous heal on one other target. And then Nia, she has an enormous heal that she can use on herself. And she also has a passive when she is healed. Everybody else on the team is also healed for like a percentage of that. So inherent self-healing and then also sustaining the others. And then essentially the way I did this is by using the Ambassador Lethelin, who also has a heal. So that's nice. And then he can place taunt on himself or an ally. So I basically used the taunt to ensure that during the eclipse phase, he's targeting the champions that I want him to be targeting. So yeah, like I said, it's maybe a dumb idea. I don't know. There are definitely like ways like you can build your champions in a certain way to make sure that Amius always attacks them. I would never in my life build anyone specifically for this fight. So, you know, like something like this is a lot more relevant to me. And then all of the damage is coming from my 2 brimstone carriers. And as you can see, like these are not high level brimstones. You don't have to have like a 6-star brimstone. You do, however, need the accuracy to land it. I think it's like 450, 500 on this fight. It's a lot. That's why I've got Drexthar in the lead with the increased accuracy aura by 70. And these are the only 2 champions placing debuffs. So these are the only champions that would require any accuracy in the fight. And yeah, I mean, like possible replacements. The thing about this fight is that you have to do a lot of damage and you also have to be tanky. So look at your roster and ask yourself, like, who does damage without being a squishy attack champion, right? Like this is damage, right? But like this is terrible that he would, you know, this guy does enough damage to kill Hefrak like 10 times over. So just try to think who is tanky, who does damage. Also, like outright physical attacks or whatever you want to call them aren't really great. Like, you know, on a free-to-play player like me, like my Tars build is not really going to be hitting him for a lot. He has insane HP and defense. So you're much better off with like these kind of percentage-based damages. You know, HP burn, Brimstone has always been a huge component of the fight. So just think about stuff like that. Like I've used Tila in this fight, HP burn, right? I've used Drexthar multiple times. I've used this champion, you know. So yeah, try to look for those damage dealers who maybe aren't like a physical damage dealer. If you have really well built nukers, like I definitely used Taurus and Stultus and Raka the first time I beat it on hard. Definitely nothing wrong with doing that. But yeah, for the average player, I would suggest, you know, look for things like HP burn and your brimstone carriers. So okay, yeah, I think I probably said enough about that. And then, so as always, I have a recording of myself beating the fight, and we will take a look-see at that. Full walkthrough, I will hopefully explain why I did, you know, this, that, why I didn't do that. And so yeah, let's just look at this kind of silly Amius Hard run. Okay, so here we are. Like I said, Drexthar in the lead. I personally need the accuracy aura. There are definitely, I mean, you could make an argument for a lot of the aura leads on this fight if you're not using the exact team. If you have a HP lead, defense lead, speed lead is very good because like the speeds have to be pretty high in this fight. Yeah, it's like, you know, the most endgamey of all endgame fights. So yeah, you do have to have decent speed and everything. So speed, HP, defense, and then of course accuracy, because you need a ton of accuracy. That's all. It's all very viable. You know, like I said, you might not be using this team exactly. I hope you're not. I hope you have some better champions. And yeah, do what you need to do. So, okay, let us get into it, see what's happening. The first thing is, I'm like about to start it and then I'm just like, no, let me talk more. All right. So essentially, he's going to do this amount of turns in this phase, and then this is his countdown to Eclipse. So when this number reaches 1 or 0, the next turn, he is going into the Eclipse form. A couple of other things to note. This is his A1. It's AoE. Does quite a bit of damage. This is his A2. This is an enormous, enormous heal. Like, massive. That's why most people have a lot of trouble killing him. Because you kind of, you know, you need to be either out damaging the heal or you need to be stopping the heal. And then this is on top of just staying alive in general and dealing with everything else. So probably the reason why most people find it the most difficult. Second ability here, this is an AoE stun. Unless you have incredibly high resistance or block debuffs, you're not going to resist it, most likely. I've very rarely am doing this fight with resistance. Sometimes I'm doing it with block debuffs. If you have a block debuffs champion, like I mentioned, I used Raka in the past. I don't expect everybody to have that because it's a void Lego. But I'm just saying, if you have a block debuffs champ, this is very helpful during this part. No problem in using it. Other thing about the giant AoE stun, it takes any of his debuffs on him that can be reversed, and it reverses them. So like, if you put block buffs on him, he's going to turn it into block buffs. If you put decreased attack on him, he's going to turn it into increased attack. So you can quickly see how this can add to the difficulty of the fight. The last thing that you want to happen is this guy to have a bunch of buffs. Like, you don't want him to have increased attack when he's doing all these enormous AoE abilities. That would be absolutely devastating. So yeah, you're going to notice on most people, I'm just going to like A1, just keep it very chill. You know, there's no need to do anything crazy. Although honestly, I guess with this lineup, I don't really have any, you know, kind of scary debuffs. I guess I do have decreased attack on Artak. So that would be like the one. So yeah, don't apply decreased attack until he has used the reverse ability. So, okay. Let's see what I'm doing. Lead with that. I always say this when I do these videos. If you didn't apply Brimstone, you know, with either of your Brimstone carriers or your singular Brimstone carrier, whatever, I would restart it. It's millions of damage. Just restart it. It's pretty key. That would be my advice. Obviously, you don't have to, but I would say, yeah, you know, start yourself off on the right foot with the Brimstone. And then also the HP burn. So that's going to be some damage as well. So let's keep going. All right. So I used Vergis's A2 Aegis. And when I do that, I'm putting Reflect Damage, Continuous Heal, Increased Speed, and Ally Protect on a singular person. So that's a lot of incredibly, incredibly useful buffs. And like I told you earlier, my incredible genius, quotation marks, plan is to just make these two characters take all of the damage, essentially, and sort of protect everybody else. So you can see everybody else also has Ally Protect. So yeah, that is basically and then he puts increased defense on himself. So yeah, that's part of the theme of the fight. Second thing to remember that should be mentioned if you're talking about using buffs, it's completely fine to use most buffs right here. However, keep an eye on the countdown because the ability that he does when he goes into the Eclipse form is that he takes all of your buffs and he turns them into the negative debuff. So like if that were to happen right now, Neo would get decreased speed, heal reduction, and Vergis would get decreased defense. So those are like devastating debuffs. So basically don't use that too close to the countdown timer, or else it's going to get reversed and you're going to die. So yeah, and that just goes for buffs in general. You know, I don't care what champions you're using. Be very, very careful when you're using them. Timing in general in this fight of buffs and debuffs is a big to-do. So keep an eye on that. And then what's up? I'm just going to A1 with Nia. We could have healed, but like no one is weak. So no need. I'm going to A1 on this guy too. So there's the big ability. You can already see, because of all of the ally protects, he took quite a bit of damage from that. So like I said, my incredible genius master plan is to make these two champions take all of the damage. And then Vergis obviously has his amazing passive. So that's what's keeping us alive. Essentially, you know, I self-shielded. I'll give myself continuous heal, you know, stuff like that. So that's the plan in action. I just stick to the A1 on Drexthar. Depending on how you have him built, maybe you want to do the nuke. I don't have him built damagey or crit rate or anything at all. So for me, I'm just going for the A1, get like those giant slayer procs, get brimstone procs, stuff like that. Okay, and then so I'm going to use the A1 on Artak because like I said, I cannot apply decreased attack because it will get turned into increased attack if this ability is available. So don't do that. That's what I'm going to use next turn. So like I said, timing is important. And then here I did go ahead and use the big heal on Nia. Just healing her, and then it heals everybody else a little bit, not a lot. So the thing about that heal also is like you would think I want to heal Vergis, right? But it's actually a bad idea because if you read through all of the text, then you would see that if you decrease the cooldown of abilities, he decreases his own cooldown of going into Eclipse form. So he would go into Eclipse form sooner. So yeah, you don't want that. So that's why I am healing Nia. I am not healing anybody else. Because when I heal myself with it, I don't get the cooldown part of it. That's only when you use it on an ally. So when I use it on myself, I'm just getting the heal. So there it is. That's my master plan. Vergis is already looking pretty healthy again. So, we're chilling. There's the little heal from Mr. Field Medic from Ambassador Lethelin. So just get some more heals out. And yeah, everybody's looking super healthy now. So cool. Okay, so that's the giant AoE stun I mentioned. And had there have been any debuffs on him that are able to be reversed, you can't reverse Brimstone, you can't reverse HP burn, they would have been reversed. So that just shows that it worked. That's why we didn't use any other debuffs. We're all stunned though, very sad. Brimstone hitting, that's good. That's his A1, the AoE. That's what he'll use when everything else is on cooldown. And it has the potential to do quite a bit of damage. The thing about this fight is that everybody's going to have different timings based on the speed of their champs. And if you had black debuffs, you weren't stunned. So if you could hit him with a decreased attack, like before he does the A1, you can actually save a lot of damage. I can't do it because all my champions are stunned, but I've done it on other teams in the past. And yeah, so yeah, if you have a sec like in between the reversing and the A1, that's always helpful. Okay, I'm just going with the A1. The reason I did the A1 and not the decrease attack is because I know, because I did this like 10 times, I know the timing of it. So I know that Artak can attack again and apply the decreased attack. So that's why I went A1. Again, your speeds might be different. It would be very weird if you were doing this with all the same champs with the exact same builds somehow and speeds. That would be truly impressive. But yeah, so, play to your own team. Coming out with those A1s again. A1s. Okay. So now here I'm doing decreased attack. And that's good because that will save me a lot of damage in this phase. So super, super useful point to apply decreased attack. We're brimstoning him again. Okay. And then, yeah, like I said, I stuck to A1 on Drexthar. And then now here's where my, idea kind of came into play. I've used Nia in a lot of different versions of this team. I really like her for her ally protect and strengthen because that drastically reduces the damage people are taking during the A1 portion, which is when he attacks you and ignore defense, ignore shield. It's kind of like Mortu Macabre Peril, if you are familiar with this. But yeah, so essentially I've used her in a lot of other fights for the Ally Protect. Very, very useful champion. So we'll go ahead and use that right now. And then we're going to go into Vergis. And like I said, my plan is that I'm just like consolidating all of the damage in between these two people and just kind of permanently having these people support each other. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Aegis on her. Make sure she's healing, make sure she's, you know, doing everything, getting all the benefits. And then, you know, Artak, you can A1, you can do the HP burn, whatever you want. And then Ambassador Lethelin, like I said, I tried this several times, you know, trying to get the best outcome and process, basically. For me, I found that it was best to place the taunt on Nia. That was what I had the most luck with. Like I said, yours might be, you know, different. Like, for example, if you had Duchess, like, wow, Duchess and Vergis, those would be two great champions to split the damage between because there's, you know, Ally Protect. So, yeah, you know, like I said, this might not be the same for you. I tried it on various other champions, and this was, like, by far the most successful in my experience. And let me just show you him doing the attack again so you can see, like, how much the damage was reduced. So, like, look, we're both actually, like, fairly healthy. So, there you go. That's the benefits of the Ally Protects. Use a self-heal on Nia. Now we're all, like, quite healthy, right? So, the plan is working. A1 on Drexthar. Be careful during this fight, because essentially what happens is he will use his two abilities. He will use the Unresistible Sleep. He will use the Giant AoE ability. And he will use his A1 once. And then after that, he is going to go back into the other form. So be careful about any debuffs you apply because they will linger. Like, for example, I would not apply Ally Attack right now. Or Ally Attack. I would not apply Decrease Attack right now because it's going to carry over into the next phase. And, you know, and then you'll just get smacked by a bunch of AoE abilities with Increase Attack. So that would be very poor. So yeah, just keep in mind what you're doing. As always, you need to be cognizant of when you're placing these buffs and debuffs because they can be turned around, literally turned around on you quite quickly. So let's keep that in mind. Oh, that got resisted. Sad. It's okay. A1s. I find that War Master is incredibly helpful in this fight because it's, you know, percentage-based damage. So yeah, for me, War Master's a hero. I always make sure, like, you know, as many of the champs I have in this fight as possible are using that. Like, I just mastered this guy today. So now he just transitioned back into the other form. Because like I said, he will A1, the scary ignore defense thing, once in the other ability. And then he's coming back to this one. Another thing to note about the Eclipse form is that, remember how we were talking about the Nia heal? You cannot heal anybody but yourself during the Eclipse form because in that form, if you decrease a cooldown, he will retaliate with his A1. And there's just, like, you know, there's really no way most teams are going to survive that. So yeah, heal yourself so that the cooldown thing doesn't come into play because she cannot decrease her own cooldowns. So something else to note. So yeah, now we're back in this form, and this fight's like a pattern. Like, you just keep doing the same things over and over again until his HP bar is gone. That's the plan. So keep it simple. Just gonna keep doing what we did before. You know, A1s, HP burn. Remember, this reverses everything, so I can't use anything crazy. Can't use Decrease Attack. I decided that some people were getting weak, and so I wanted to Ally Protect them. And I know I can do this because of the cooldown, and she's fast enough that it's going to come back for the next phase. So that's the only reason I did that. You know, that might not be applicable to your team whatsoever. Your team might be in completely fine shape. Again, you know, this is just a decision that I made for the situation. There's his little baby heal, Ambassador Lethelin little heal there. I can't decrease attack here, so going with the A1. That's his A1. Okay. A lot of contemplation here from me, apparently. So I do go ahead with the decreased attack. Lucky enough to get another Brimstone proc. A1, because remember, I can't use the Aegis right now because it's going to get turned into the debuffs, because in one turn he's going into the form. So sadness. I'll self-heal, that's fine. And I mean, look at that. Look at how healthy everyone is now. So it's really good. A lot of sustain in the team. A1, all we can do there. Get some more HP burnout. Unresistible sleep. This ability is giant damage, and then it also decreases the duration of your buffs. So just remember the buff duration thing. Like, for example, if I had a Nia with really high resistance and she had resisted that, I can't, and like, or sorry, the sleep is not resistible, but occasionally you will have a champion cut in because of like chain breaker or something like that. So if you do have anything like that, just remember that the giant AoE ability reduces buff duration. So like, don't use Nia's ally protect then, because it's going to decrease the duration of that. So just something to note, doesn't often come into play, but again, it's all there in those ability descriptions. So he's actually getting pretty low with all of our brimstoning and HP burning. So that's something to think about. A1. A1. And then same thing, right? Use the Aegis on Nia. Nothing here. Use the taunt, right? So it looks like I actually did get into a situation where my strengthen hadn't quite come back up yet. So, but I mean, obviously it still worked. So not the end of the world, thankfully. Okay, so placing the taunt on Nia, which will mean that I am splitting the damage between these two people because she's being ally protected by Vergis. Oh, so I guess I made a decision here to use, because I saw what happened with the strengthen, I made a decision to use the decrease attack. And it looks like I got lucky and it only applied 2 turns. So it looks like it, you know, it shouldn't persist. So yeah, that was my decision. I can also tell that I almost have him, right? So, you know, I play a little bit different toward the end when I can tell like this fight isn't, you know, it's going to be over soon. So then, yeah, he used the ignore defense ability. You can see that once again, we split the damage between these two champions. They're not really looking great at this point, but they're not dead yet, right? So just, you know, keep doing what you're doing. I think I'm going to use it. Okay, so I'm thinking big picture, right, at this point. So I did decide to go ahead and use the full ally protect strengthen on everybody, even though I know that this will probably kill me because I'm not very weak, and then I've just volunteered myself to tank a bunch of damage for like 4 other people. But my methodology is basically this. I should get a Brimstone proc here soon. And then he should go into the next phase. And then because of the Brimstone proc and everything else I have, we should be able to kill him. So that's my thought process. That's like sort of the future that I can see on the horizon. And that's how I'm playing at this point. My goal is basically like, it's okay if this champion dies at this point, because I think we have the potential to win with everybody else. A1. There we go. Get the HP burn Brimstone out again. A1. And then, yeah, like I said, it was kind of assumed that these champions would die at this point. So that was expected. No surprise there. Got my little heal to keep us up. Brimstone is still hitting. Remember, you can only kill him in this form unless you have Black Revive. He will self-revive himself. If you kill him in the Eclipse form, he'll revive with like a quarter HP, I think. So don't do that. But yeah, basically I see, you know, that I can kill him, so I'm just all-inning now. I'm detonating the HP burn. There's his H1. I'm putting on more HP burn. I'm A1ing. I'm giant slaying. And there you have it. My amazing quotation marks, as always. Amius the Lunar Archon. Hard fight. Funnily enough, 317 is probably one of the better times that I have on this fight. Yeah, I guess he's just getting so overwhelmed by HP burn and brimstone. 2.6 million damage from Drexthar, 3.1 million from Artak, so basically all of the damage from those two characters. Healing, essentially just healing each other repeatedly. You get your 100 remnant points or whatever those are called. You get all your mythical gear that you can sell because it has bad rolls. At least that's how it usually works for me. Okay, guys, and then as always, I will show you the builds if you actually are interested in using this team for whatever reason. Or, you know, using some form of this team, using some of the champions in the team, because I do think they all are fairly, like, good in the fight. So, let's take a peek and see who we've got. We'll just start with the number 1 there of Drexthar Bloodtwin. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm completely aware that this build is bad. So you don't have to let me know. He's probably best built as, like, the nuker, you know, defense nuker, but yeah, I actually, up until, like, a couple weeks ago, I had an uncommon accuracy banner on him. I did decide for you guys, I decided to upgrade to the, you know, the 6-star Lego. With not so great rolls. So a small upgrade there. Yeah, I used to show him in videos with an uncommon accuracy banner, so rest in peace, accuracy banner. But yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, it's probably not the best build for Drexthar, but it isn't the best build for this fight, because you just need to stay alive. And HP is more valuable than defense in this fight, in my experience, just because he does have that, like, ignore defense ability. So yeah, just stay alive is my idea, and then have enough accuracy to place your brimstone. Next up is Artak. The only other Lego I used during this fight. They gave him away for free at some point. I'm just in the full perception. And again, the character is basically just like, have high HP, it's an HP champion, and have enough accuracy to apply your debuffs. So that's the goal. They also gave us a soul for him, and then obviously Brimstone would be the choice on that. And then, like I said, yeah, I do use Warmaster on people because the percent base damage is super helpful. We can go back to Drexthar. Drexthar has the triple hit A1, which means that Giant Slayer is technically the one you should pick, because, like, someone calculated years ago that, you know, if you have X amounts of hits on your A1, you should use Giant Slayer because it'll technically be more damage over the course of an extended fight or something of that nature. I don't remember. I'm old. But moving on to our next champion, here is Vergis. Oh yeah, this is, I do have him in a regen set, which is obviously very helpful for the fight because he's taking so much damage. So it is helpful to be healing by the 15% on his turn, in addition to his passive. So it places a shield on this champion equal to 10% of their max HP for 2 turns whenever this champion loses 10% or more of their max HP. This is actually amazing passive. I don't know if you've ever, like, not had very good champions and gotten stuck in one of the Doom Tower rooms where there's like 5 Vergises, and they're all using this passive. Like, they're actually very hard to kill, like, if you're, you know, kind of in the earlier game. And then the active places a 15% continuous heal on the champion for 2 turns every time their HP drops below 50%. So yeah, like we were talking about, a lot of inherent sustaining himself. And then there's the Aegis. This ability is, like, goated. Look at all the buffs. That's so many buffs. How is this legal? No one's noticed how good this is. But yeah, so very good ability, very low cooldown, very good for keeping a single target alive. Yeah, obviously you can't put all these buffs on everybody. It's just a single target. The ally protection does go on everybody. So increased defense on himself, ally protect on everybody else, and then the continuous heal, increased bleed, reflect damage on the single target. So I love this champion. I've used him in a lot of videos. I'm a big fan. There's Ambassador Lethelin right there. There's absolutely nothing to the immunity set on this champion. I think I've mentioned this, like, if you guys have watched my videos before. When I build champions that I don't really anticipate using a lot, like, I will just throw them in, you know, whatever set. So, like, I just happen to have a 4-piece immunity that was sitting in my inventory doing absolutely nothing, and I just thought, hey, like, this guy is a, you know, an okay candidate for that. You know, it's better than sitting there doing nothing. So, yeah. That's kind of how I build champions, you know? Like, I recently have put, like, a bunch of people in, like, a Frost set. Is it the greatest set ever? Not really, but, like, is it, you know, completely fine? Sure. So that's my methodology. And then if you're not super familiar with his kit, we're placing Taunt and Reflect damage on an ally. And we have a little baby heal. It's only 5%. But, you know, can kind of bump that up a bit with, like, masteries and whatnot. So, yeah, I definitely wouldn't call it useless or anything. So there you go. Cool champion. Yeah, no regrets leveling him. And then last but not least, there's White Dryad Nia, who I've probably used in these fights to just the point of you being sick of it. So I do apologize. It's not really my champ. It's not my fault that the champ is goated. So here's the big self-heal. Like I said, you can use this on an ally. It just doesn't really work in the Amius fight because of his dumb passives. You know, it would basically penalize you for doing that. So yeah, I always use that on myself. There's the Ally Protect Strengthen. Do note that it is technically baby strengthen. So, and then there is the passive. Whenever this champ is healed, heals everybody else for 20% of the heal. So, you know, definitely not an insignificant amount of healing coming out from that ability. There's some masteries, if I didn't show those already. You also use this champion in Hydra. Thus, the Provoke set. Like I said, I don't, like, go out of my way to put a champion in Amius gear. Everybody you saw in the fight had already been in the build they were in. So, yeah, I like to keep it simple on my account. And yeah, so that was this Amius rotation for me. I hope, you know, if you guys took the time to watch, I hope you learned something or it helped you in some way, even if you don't decide to use this exact team. I wish you the best of luck with the fight. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch a video, and take care of yourselves. Oh, and I did, I opened a crap ton of shards, and I ended up getting the soul for Lysinther. So go watch me open a bunch of shards if you didn't already. And as always, you guys, take care of yourselves, and thank you so much. Goodbye.